Liam was the kind of boy most people walked past without really seeing. He was small, quiet, and always kept his eyes low as if the world was too loud for him. Every morning he arrived at school a few minutes early, not because he was excited to be there, but because he didn't want to enter when the hallways were crowded. When too many people were around, the whispers were louder, and the whispers always hurt. His clothes were old. His shirt looked like it once belonged to someone bigger, maybe given to him long after it stopped fitting them. The sleeves were a little too long, and he often rolled them up carefully so they wouldn't cover his hands. His pants were faded, the knees slightly torn, the color washed away like memories of better days. His shoes had scratches and thin soles, and sometimes when he walked, the floor beneath him could almost be heard through them. But Liam never complained. While others saw worn fabric, he saw clothes that kept him warm. While others laughed at his shoes, he felt grateful they still carried him where he needed to go. He didn't have much, but he had heart. And sometimes heart is more valuable than anything money can buy. In class, Liam sat near the window where sunlight touched his desk quietly like a gentle friend. He rarely raised his hand, even when he knew the answers. Speaking aloud felt like standing alone on a stage with hundreds of eyes ready to judge, so he kept his knowledge inside him like he kept his dreams. Hidden, quiet, safe. Most kids didn't speak to him unless it was to make a joke about his clothes. They would whisper things like, "Look at him," or "Does he even wash that shirt?" He heard every word even when he pretended not to. Sometimes he wished he could disappear into his seat like a shadow no one could step on. But there was one place where he never felt invisible. At the end of every school day, when the hallways emptied and voices faded away, Liam walked to the basement staircase. Down there, in a small room filled with old instruments and dusty shelves, sat a piano. Some keys were chipped. A few were slightly out of tune. But to Liam, it was the most beautiful thing in the building, maybe in the world. When he opened the cover and placed his fingers on the keys, something magical happened. The quiet boy turned into something else, someone else. He changed like night turns into sunrise. His hands suddenly moved with confidence like they belonged there. The music that came from him wasn't practiced or trained, it was natural, alive, full of feeling. Down there, no one mocked him, no one saw his clothes. They only heard his heart. He played softly at first, unsure if he deserved to touch something so beautiful. But music welcomed him like an old friend, and soon he let every emotion flow through his fingertips: sadness, hope, dreams, loneliness. Each note felt like breathing. Each melody felt like a story only he could tell. The world upstairs never guessed the kind of talent that lived inside the quiet boy with the worn shoes. They never imagined the music that slept in his small hands, waiting for a chance to be heard. They only saw what was outside, not what he carried within. Sometimes, after playing, Liam would close the piano lid gently and sit beside it, breathing slowly like music left light inside his chest. He didn't know why he could play so well. He never had lessons. He couldn't read sheet music, but when he pressed the keys, he didn't think, he felt. And music answered him every time. He often stayed until the last ray of afternoon sun slipped through the basement window, painting golden shapes on the dusty floor. Those moments were his favorite, when the world was quiet and only the piano understood him. At school, he was the boy everyone overlooked. But at the piano, he was everything he wished to be. Sometimes he wondered if the world would ever hear him, if people would ever see something other than his clothes or his silence. If someday somehow someone would listen long enough to understand. For now, though, he was alone with his secret, a secret more powerful than anyone knew. And while others judged him for what he wore, the truth was waiting quietly behind locked keys and silent talent. Nobody expected greatness from him, but greatness was already there. It was just waiting for the right moment to speak. Every day after school, while students ran to catch buses or rushed home laughing with friends, Liam walked quietly down the hallway, head lowered, footsteps soft, as if trying not to disturb the world. The laughter behind him faded like echoes, but the quiet ahead of him felt like a welcome door opening. He always carried the same feeling with him, a mix of loneliness and possibility. People saw a boy in dirty clothes. The piano saw a musician. The piano room in the basement became his universe, a small, hidden place where nobody judged him, nobody compared him, nobody asked about money or shoes or appearance. When Liam sat in front of the piano, he was no longer the boy others whispered about. He felt powerful, not because he wanted to show off, but because, through music, he finally existed. Each note he played was like breathing out the pain people gave him during the day. When classmates mocked him, he played harder. When teachers overlooked his raised hand, he created new melodies. When his stomach hurt from skipped lunches, music filled the emptiness. Most children his age played games or watched cartoons. Liam played emotion. His fingers found chords without thinking, like they knew where beauty lived. When he pressed the keys, sound flowed out like sunlight through dark clouds. He didn't know how he learned, he just did. The music felt stored inside him, waiting patiently for a chance to escape. Some days he played slow, like raindrops. Some days fast like wind rushing through trees, some days soft like a secret he whispered to the piano alone. But no matter the sound, one truth remained. Music understood him when people didn't. Behind Liam's calm face, a world of dreams lived quietly. He imagined playing on big stages with bright lights, people listening with closed eyes, the world silent from awe, but then reality always returned. His clothes, his shoes, his empty pockets reminded him how far away such dreams seemed. He didn't ask for more. He only wished not to be laughed at. One afternoon, while walking to class, a group of boys blocked his way. Their sneakers were brand new, clothes spotless, the opposite of Liam's. One smirked. "Hey, poor boy, ever thought of buying real shoes?" Another added, "Maybe he saves all his money for soap instead." Their laughter felt sharper than knives. Liam looked at them with calm eyes, though inside he felt his heart tighten like someone squeezing it. He didn't respond. Words wouldn't help. Silence was easier. He walked around them slowly, like a shadow slipping past unnoticed. Their voices followed him, mocking, cruel, but his heart whispered something louder. "Play today. Play it all out." That day he ran to the basement faster than usual, almost like a bird escaping a net. He pushed open the door, sat at the piano, and pressed the first key with trembling hands. The sound was soft, fragile, like the beginning of a tear. Then he played more and more. The notes became stronger, braver, louder, with pain and hope mixed together. His music cried where he couldn't. It spoke truths he never said aloud. If someone had listened, they would have heard heartbreak. If someone had watched, they would have seen passion. But no one was there yet. Still Liam played, eyes closed, soul open. Music poured out of him like it had been waiting all day to escape. He imagined the piano comforting him like a friend, whispering, "Don't give up." Because no matter how broken his confidence felt, the music inside him remained whole. While other kids saw his clothes and judged him, the piano only cared about his touch. And that was enough for Liam to return every day, even when the world outside felt cold. He didn't know how long he played, minutes, maybe hours. In the basement, time felt different. Notes traveled like memories of things he wished but never had. He imagined applause, crowds, stages, but always from far away, like a star too high to reach. Yet the star inside him shined anyway. Nobody believed in him, nobody supported him, nobody expected anything from him, but talent does not disappear just because it is ignored. It grows quietly, humbly, secretly, like roots under soil no one sees. And Liam's talent was growing every single day, note after note, hour after hour, hidden from everyone except the piano. The world had no idea that beneath the feet of the school, in a dusty basement where light barely entered, a boy in worn clothes was building greatness. One day, that greatness would rise and silence every voice that ever laughed at him. But for now, he played alone, unaware that soon someone would hear him, someone who would change everything. Days turned into weeks, and weeks slowly folded into months. Liam continued his routine like the hands of a clock, quiet, unnoticed, steady. Every insult he received in class, every laugh thrown at him like a stone, every whisper about his clothes, he absorbed it silently. Not because he was weak, but because he had somewhere stronger to send the pain, into the piano. Every time someone mocked him, the music grew deeper. Every time someone avoided sitting next to him, the notes became fuller. Every time his stomach ached from hunger, he tapped melodies on desks until the bell rang. He didn't realize it, but while the world pushed him down, he was rising in ways no one could see. But storms always grow before the sunlight comes. One rainy morning, Liam entered class with soaked shoes, hair dripping slightly. He couldn't afford an umbrella, so he walked through the storm because he had no other choice. Drops of water fell from his sleeves as he took his seat. The girl beside him moved her chair away with obvious disgust. "Don't sit near me," she muttered, loud enough for others to hear. A few boys laughed. One pointed at his wet clothes and said, "Look, even rain doesn't want him." The room erupted in giggles, soft to some, sharp like broken glass to Liam. His throat tightened. He kept his eyes down, but the words hit like stones on his chest. He tried to breathe quietly, tried to pretend it didn't matter, but humiliation has a heavy weight. The teacher called for silence, but the damage was already done. Still, as always, Liam didn't fight back. He simply waited for the day to end, counting each minute like a slow-moving clock. When the final bell rang, he walked out with tired steps, but a small spark still alive inside him. The piano was waiting. He hurried down the hallway with the urgency of someone running home. The stairs creaked as he descended into the basement, the one place no one followed him because nobody cared to. But today, someone did. Just as Liam opened the piano lid and placed his fingers on the keys, a quiet creak sounded from behind him. He froze, head lifting slightly, heart pounding, footsteps slow, cautious, approaching gently. Liam turned. Standing in the doorway was the school's music teacher, Mr. Bennett. Gray hair, glasses slightly crooked, music sheets under his arm. His face was calm, curious, softened with something Liam couldn't recognize yet, kindness. "I heard music," Mr. Bennett said quietly. "Beautiful music." Liam blinked nervously. He didn't know what to say. No adult had ever come down here. No one ever asked about the piano. His voice shakily escaped. I'm sorry. Am I not allowed to be here? The teacher slowly shook his head. I'm not here to ask why you're here, he replied. I'm here to ask how you learned to play like that. Liam looked at the floor. I didn't learn, he whispered. I just feel it. What? Mr. Bennett stepped closer, but gently, like approaching a frightened bird. May I listen? He asked. Liam hesitated. A small part of him was afraid if he played in front of someone they might laugh the way students did. But another part, a brave part, wanted to be heard, even if just once. So he nodded. He placed his fingers on the keys, took a deep breath, and played. This time, knowing someone was listening, his music carried everything he had kept hidden: sadness like rain, hope like sunrise, loneliness like winter, passion like fire. Each note trembled with truth. Mr. Bennett did not move. He watched with wide eyes, breath held, heart drawn in. When Liam finished, silence hung like a fragile thread. The teacher exhaled deeply, emotionally shocked. Liam, this is not ordinary talent, he murmured. This is gift. Liam's eyes widened, unsure whether to believe it. Nobody had spoken to him like that before. Nobody ever saw more than his clothes. Mr. Bennett placed a hand on the piano gently, like respecting something sacred. You belong on a stage, he said softly, not hidden in a basement. For the first time in his life, Liam felt something unfamiliar and warm. Belief. Not his own belief in music, he always had that, but someone else's belief in him. His throat tightened with emotion he didn't know how to express. He managed a small, trembling whisper. Do you really think so? What? The teacher nodded slowly. I don't just think, I know. Those words entered Liam like light enters a dark room, quietly, gently, beautifully. He felt something inside him open, like a door he didn't know was locked. He wasn't invisible anymore. Someone finally saw him. Someone finally heard what only the piano knew. This moment, so small yet so life-changing, was the first crack in the wall that trapped his talent. The first key that unlocked his future. And though Liam didn't know it yet, this was the moment the world began to change for him. A spark had been lit, a seed of belief planted, a story of greatness quietly started. Soon the world would hear his name, but for now he played, and Mr. Bennett listened. After that day, nothing felt the same for Liam, not the halls he walked through, not the dusty basement steps, not even the piano keys under his fingers. For the first time in his life, someone knew, someone heard, someone believed, and that belief became a quiet light inside him, bright enough to guide him through each painful day. Mr. Bennett returned the very next afternoon, carrying a small notebook and a gentle smile. He didn't knock, didn't call out, he simply listened as Liam played, letting every note fill the empty space between them. When Liam finally stopped, the teacher rested his notebook on top of the piano and said softly, You have a gift, and gifts must be nurtured. Liam stared, unsure. He had never been given anything valuable before, not even words like these. He felt shy, small, unprepared, but curious. Mr. Bennett opened the notebook. Inside were small handwritten notes, simple exercises, basic scales, suggestions, not as rules, but as stepping stones. If you want, the teacher offered, I can teach you properly. I can help you shape the talent you already have. Liam's voice came out soft and trembling. Nobody ever tried to teach me anything like this. Mr. Bennett smiled kindly. Well, now someone will. Over the next few weeks, the basement piano room became more than a secret hideout. It became a classroom, a dream workshop, a place where a broken boy slowly built wings. Mr. Bennett guided him gently, never forcing, never judging, only encouraging. When Liam struggled with a difficult piece, the teacher simply said, Try again, you're capable. What? When Liam played beautifully, he didn't boast, only nodded with pride and said, Do you feel that? That's your heart speaking. And Liam did feel it every time. He learned to read music slowly, shaky at first, like learning a new language. But his memory was strong, his ear sharper than most trained musicians. What others learned in months, he picked up in weeks. His progress was breathtaking, even to Mr. Bennett. But outside that basement, the world was still the same. Students still mocked him for his clothes. Teachers still overlooked him. He still sat alone at lunch. No one knew a miracle was forming quietly below their feet, like a seed sprouting in darkness, waiting for light. One afternoon, while Liam practiced, Mr. Bennett leaned against the wall, watching with a warmth in his eyes. After Liam finished, the teacher spoke words that would soon change everything. Our annual school concert is coming next month, he said calmly. I want you to perform. Liam froze. Perform on stage. In front of everyone who laughed at him, his heart thundered like drums. Fear flooded his mind like cold water. What if they mocked him again? What if they laughed during his performance? What if he failed in front of everyone who already doubted him? I don't know, he whispered. Mr. Bennett stepped closer, his voice gentle but firm like a steady hand. They already see your clothes, he said softly. Let them hear your talent too. Those words struck something deep inside Liam, like unlocking a door he never dared to touch. He imagined it, sitting under stage lights, hands on polished keys, the whole school watching, not mocking. Watching, listening. Could it really happen? Mr. Bennet placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're ready, Liam." And maybe, just maybe, he was. Liam practiced harder than ever. Every day he stayed late, sometimes until the school lights dimmed. The piano was no longer just a friend, it was a voice. His voice. A voice he was about to share with the world, but rumors spread. Students overheard the teacher discussing the concert. They laughed loudly in hallways. Him, on stage. "What? With those clothes? He'll embarrass himself." Whispers followed him like shadows. Some students smirked when he walked by. Others asked sarcastically if he would play on broken keys like his shoes. Every word hurt but couldn't stop him. Because when Liam sat at the piano, he was untouchable. He poured every insult into his music. Every laugh became a note, every cruel comment a chord that hit deep. His pain turned into beauty, his weakness into power. The concert was no longer just an event. It was his chance to speak through sound, louder than words ever could. As the day approached, he didn't sleep well. His stomach tightened with nerves, dreams mixing fear with hope. But every morning, he returned to the piano, steady, determined. And Mr. Bennet was always there, supporting him like a foundation beneath a house of fragile courage. One evening, just before the concert, the teacher said something Liam would never forget. "You're not performing to prove them wrong, you're performing to show the world who you are." That night, Liam went home with a quiet fire in his chest. He looked at his old clothes, torn, faded, judged by everyone. But tomorrow, when he sat at the piano, nobody would be looking at his clothes, they would be listening to his soul, and the world would change. The day of the concert arrived like a storm and sunrise together, frightening yet full of possibility. Liam woke early, long before the sun touched the sky. He washed his face with cold water, combed his hair with careful hands, and put on the same clothes he always wore, faded, frayed at the edges, but clean as he could make them. He stared at himself in the mirror, not proud, not ashamed, just wondering, will they only see this? Will they ever see more? He took a slow breath and whispered to the reflection, "Today I play." The school auditorium felt larger than he remembered, rows of chairs, shining lights, polished stage floor. Students laughed and chatted loudly, dressed in bright colors, clean shoes, confident smiles. Liam stood quietly near the side curtain, heart pounding like a drum against his ribs. His hands were cold, but inside his chest, music simmered like fire. When other performers went up, the crowd clapped politely. Some children played violins with practiced movements, others sang songs they memorized weeks ago. Teachers smiled, parents recorded videos proudly, but Liam barely noticed any of it. He only heard the piano in his mind, calling him like a voice waiting to be answered. Finally, a voice echoed through the speakers. "And next, Liam Rivers will perform on piano." A wave of laughter rolled through the students, small at first, then louder. A few whispers followed, "Him. In those clothes. This is going to be funny." But Liam walked forward anyway, step by step, quiet, steady, courage in motion. His hands shook not from fear of the piano, but from the weight of eyes watching him. He sat before the grand instrument, its surface shining under warm light. The keys looked like old friends waiting for him, patient and loyal. He placed his fingers on them, but for a brief moment nothing happened. Silence. Breathing, a heartbeat loud enough to feel. Liam closed his eyes. He remembered every insult, every whisper, every day he sat alone. But he also remembered the basement, the music room light, the dusty window, Mr. Bennet's belief, the piano that never judged him. He took a slow breath, like filling himself with courage. Then he played. The first note floated into the air, soft, uncertain, like a shy greeting, then another and another. The melody began to grow, gentle as morning light, then steady like footsteps on a new path. The audience quieted. Whispers died in throats. Laughter faded like smoke. Every mocking eye froze, because Liam wasn't just playing. He was speaking with emotion, not words. His fingers moved faster now, with strength that came from years of quiet practice, from pain turned into beauty. The music grew powerful, rising and falling like ocean waves, full of emotion too deep for language. The audience leaned forward unconsciously, drawn in like moths to flame. This wasn't a student singing for applause. This wasn't a boy trying to impress. This was heart, raw, pure, unstoppable. Every key he pressed carried a story. The loneliness of lunch breaks, the sting of laughter in hallways, the nights he played on imaginary keys. The belief of a teacher who finally saw him. He played it all like his soul had waited years for this one moment. Parents stared with open mouths. Children stopped whispering. Even teachers who barely noticed him before now stood still, eyes wide, hands over hearts. Before now stood still, eyes wide, hands over hearts. Mr. Bennet, standing near the side of the stage, felt tears gather in his eyes. This wasn't just talent, this was destiny unfolding like music written in the stars. Halfway through the performance, Liam opened his eyes, shining, fearless. His fingers flew across keys with confidence no one expected. The sound filled the hall like light flooding darkness. People forgot his clothes, people forgot their judgments, people forgot they ever laughed. Now they only listened. When the final note came, Liam held it gently, letting it ring like a bell, long and pure. It drifted through every corner of the auditorium, into every heart, into every silent memory. Then nothing. A quiet deeper than sound. For one full second, no one moved, no one breathed, as if the world itself bowed to the music. Then applause, not light, not polite, thunder. The crowd erupted, clapping, cheering, standing all at once. Some cried. Some stared in disbelief. Some kids who once mocked him felt their faces burn with shame. Liam sat there, small on a big piano bench, breathing hard, heart full. He didn't smile widely. He didn't brag or bow dramatically. He simply looked out at the crowd, not as the boy with dirty clothes, but as a musician. As the applause continued, one truth finally shone brighter than the stage lights. They ridiculed his clothes. They doubted his worth. They never expected greatness, but greatness played anyway, and it was unforgettable. The applause didn't stop. It roared through the auditorium like thunder rolling across open skies, loud, overwhelming, unstoppable. Liam sat still at the piano, breathing softly, as if afraid moving would break the moment. His hands rested quietly in his lap, but inside them was the memory of music that had just changed everything. Minutes ago, people laughed at him. Now they couldn't look away from him. Mothers wiped tears from the corners of their eyes. Fathers nodded slowly, amazed, whispering things like, "How did we never see this?" Even students who once mocked him stood frozen, some uncomfortable, some ashamed, but all in awe. The gym teacher, who barely remembered calling his name during attendance, now stared as though seeing him for the first time. The principal leaned forward from her seat, mouth parted, slightly stunned. Liam lowered his gaze, shy but no longer shrinking. He didn't feel small anymore. He felt full, warm, bright, alive. He wasn't invisible now. He wasn't a joke. He wasn't the boy with dirty clothes. He was the boy who made everyone silent. The applause slowly softened like waves returning to shore, but admiration remained heavy in the room. People looked at Liam as though they had discovered a star hidden in darkness. No one moved. They were waiting, expecting, hoping. Liam touched the keys again, gently, a snowflake of sound. Then he began to play a second piece. Gasps fluttered through the crowd like wings. No one had expected more, but Liam wasn't playing for applause now. He was playing because this was who he was. This was where he belonged. The second song was quieter than the first, softer, sadder, like rain on a window at night. Every note carried emotion deeper than words could express. Loneliness, hope, pain, dreams. He didn't perform it, he released it. It was as though every moment of silence he endured, every bruise left by laughter, every insult that made his heart ache was finally finding its voice. And that voice was beautiful. A girl in the front row covered her mouth, eyes wet. A teacher leaned against the wall as if his knees had gone weak. Students who once giggled now stood completely still, ashamed, humbled, changed. No one expected this from the boy with worn shoes. But talent is not visible through fabric. Genius cannot be recognized by clothes, and greatness doesn't need permission to bloom. When Liam reached the final notes of the second piece, they fell like feathers, slow, tender, unforgettable. He lifted his fingers from the keys slowly, like letting go of something precious. Silence fell. A silence so deep, so full, no applause dared interrupt it at first. Then someone began to clap softly, one pair of hands, then another, then another. The applause rose again, but this time it was different. It was not loud because they were amazed. It was gentle because they were moved. He had touched their hearts, not just impressed their ears. Liam opened his eyes and saw something he never expected. Not judgment, not mockery, not pity, but respect. Real respect. The kind that cannot be false. The kind that is earned, not given. Students who bullied him looked away, cheeks burning with shame. Some wished they could take their words back. Others couldn't lift their eyes at all, because now they knew the boy they laughed at is the boy they will remember forever. The principal walked onto the stage slowly, carefully, like approaching royalty. She placed a hand on Liam's shoulder and spoke into the microphone, her voice warm and reverent. "Today," she said softly, "we witnessed brilliance." Liam's chest tightened with emotion he didn't know how to hold. His eyes shined, not with pride, but with relief that someone finally saw him. The principal continued. "And I think it's time this school recognizes not how a student dresses, but who they are inside." The crowd nodded, clapped, some quietly, some loudly, but all agreed. Nobody expected this moment. Nobody expected this boy. Nobody expected greatness dressed in old fabric, but greatness does not need permission. It does not need approval, it simply needs a chance. And today, Liam took that chance and turned it into something the world could not ignore. The applause rose once more, but this time it felt different. It felt like acceptance. It felt like respect. It felt like beginning, because after today, Liam's life would no longer be the same. When the concert ended, Liam didn't rush out with the others. He stayed seated for a moment longer, letting the applause echo inside him like a warm heartbeat. His hands rested on the piano keys one last time, as if saying goodbye not forever, but to the version of himself who once hid in silence. He stood slowly, feet feeling lighter than they ever had, like he was walking on music instead of tile. As he stepped down from the stage, something unexpected happened. People moved aside for him. They didn't push past him, didn't ignore him, didn't wrinkle their nose at his clothes. They made space for him. Some parents reached out and gently touched his shoulder. Students who once laughed at him now watched with wide eyes. Even teachers who barely knew his name whispered to each other. He wasn't invisible anymore. He was unforgettable. The first person to reach him was Mr. Bennett. His eyes were wet but shining with the kind of pride no trophy in the world could match. He placed both hands on Liam's shoulders and whispered, "You didn't just play music today, Liam. You changed how people see." Liam swallowed, thick with emotion. "I didn't know I could do that." "You could," the teacher smiled softly. "You just finally let them hear you." More students gathered, slowly at first, then more boldly. A girl who once moved away from him at class approached shyly, head low. "Liam, you were amazing," she whispered. "I'm sorry for how I treated you." Liam didn't know how to respond. No one had apologized to him before. But he smiled, small, honest, forgiving, because his heart held more music than resentment. Then something even bigger happened. The principal approached with the school director, the event organizer, and several teachers. They stood before Liam like a group meeting a celebrity. The principal spoke gently, with admiration clear in every word. "Your performance was not only beautiful, it was meaningful. You reminded us that greatness cannot be measured by appearance." She paused, then added, "We want to sponsor your music education fully." Liam froze. Sponsor lessons. Opportunity, words he had never imagined for himself, suddenly surrounded him like stars falling into his open hands. Mr. Bennett looked at him proudly, eyes shining with hope Liam had never seen before. But the moment wasn't over yet. A woman stepped through the crowd, someone he didn't recognize. Her hair was tidy, her expression soft, her voice gentle but confident. "I'm from the State Youth Music Academy," she said. "We heard recordings from the concert livestream, and we want to offer Liam a scholarship, one of our highest." The room gasped. Even Liam stopped breathing for a moment. A scholarship, a real one for him. Students who once laughed at his clothes now stared with regret heavy on their faces. They had judged the packaging and missed the treasure inside. A boy who teased Liam weeks before stepped forward, cheeks red, voice shaking. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I shouldn't have made fun of you." Another joined, "And me too. I didn't know you were incredible." Liam blinked at them. He didn't hate them. He didn't hold bitterness. He simply nodded, and in that nod was forgiveness that softened even the hardest hearts in the room. Because greatness doesn't need revenge, it needs recognition, and Liam finally had it. Opportunities poured like rain after a long drought. Lesson offers, performance invitations. Scholarship forms handed to Mr. Bennett. Everyone wanted to hear him again, not because he changed his clothes, but because he revealed his soul. The boy who once ate lunch alone walked out of the concert hall with a circle of people around him, friends who hadn't been friends before, teachers who suddenly remembered his name, and adults who looked at him not as a child, but as something rare, exceptional, gifted, extraordinary. Outside, the evening air was cool and gentle. Streetlights glowed like warm stars lined in rows. Liam stepped into the night with Mr. Bennett on one side, the academy representative on the other, his heart brighter than every lamp in the street. For the first time, Liam saw his future, not blurry, not impossible, not hidden in shadows. He saw stages. He saw music halls. He saw himself not just surviving, but shining. He had once believed no one would ever listen. Now the world leaned forward to hear more. They ridiculed his dirty clothes. They judged what they saw. But nobody expected the brilliance inside. Nobody expected that boy would one day become the world's greatest pianist. Years passed, but the memory of that concert never faded, not from the school, not from the teachers, and definitely not from Liam. Instead, it became the single moment that opened hundreds of doors, each wider and brighter than the last. After the scholarship offer, Liam trained every day under skilled mentors who recognized his rare gift. He practiced until his fingers ached and his shoulders felt heavy, but his heart never complained. He remembered the boy who once sat alone in old clothes, dreaming in silence, and he promised never to waste the chance he'd been given. Music wasn't just something Liam did, it was who he was. He played in local competitions first, small halls, modest crowds, but every time he carried the same emotion he played within the basement. People cried, people stood. People felt. His name began to spread like whispering wind. Soon, he was invited to cities far from home, performing on grand stages he once only dreamed of. His old shoes were replaced, his clothes cleaner, his life different, but he never forgot his first stage, his first applause, his first belief. Because greatness doesn't erase where you came from, it shows how far you've gone. Years later, his performances reached national screens. Music academies fought to have him. Reporters wrote articles titled, "The Boy Who Rose from Nothing." From ridicule to reverence, the making of a prodigy. He played with more heart than any master. Crowds filled stadiums just to hear him touch a piano. People traveled across countries to witness the soul in his music. He didn't just perform pieces, he told stories through sound. Every note he played carried childhood pain, strength, heartbreak, healing, and hope. He never needed lyrics. His music was enough. One unforgettable evening, he stood backstage at one of the world's largest auditoriums. The hall held thousands of seats, everyone filled. Cameras glowed like stars. The world watched. And as he walked toward the piano, he remembered the footsteps of a younger version of himself, quieter, smaller, unnoticed. Now the world was silent for him again, not because they doubted him, but because they respected him. When he placed his hands on the grand piano, he didn't think of fame or praise or success. He thought of the old basement, the chipped keys, the dirty clothes people judged. He thought of the boy who kept playing even when nobody listened. And then he began. The music was unlike anything he had played before, deep as oceans, bright as sunrise, heavy with emotion, light with beauty. Each note felt like a heartbeat shared with millions. People closed their eyes, some cried, some smiled, some forgot to breathe. He was not just a pianist now. He was a storyteller, a healer, a legend. When he finished, the world gave him not applause, but silence, beautiful silence. The kind that comes when hearts are too full for clapping. And then the sound rose not like thunder, but like a wave of love. A standing ovation that lasted longer than he could count. Cameras flashed. Voices shouted his name. The moment felt endless, like time itself paused to honor him. Liam bowed not low with shame this time, but with grace and humble pride. Tears slipped from his eyes, not from pain, but from gratitude. He had spent a lifetime unheard, unseen, and now millions listened. After the performance, journalists crowded him. How did you become so great? What inspired your music? What is your secret? Liam smiled softly, the same shy smile he carried as a child. My talent wasn't in my hands, he said quietly. It was in my heart. What hurt me once now plays through me. His story became a message for the world. Never judge someone by their appearance. Because sometimes the greatest souls wear the simplest clothes. Schools told his tale for years. A painting of him playing the piano hung in the very hall where he was once mocked. Students looked at it not with laughter, but with inspiration. Young musicians whispered his name like a promise. Poor children saw him and believed in dreams. Anyone who felt small looked at Liam and knew they did not have to stay that way, because the boy they once ridiculed became the world's greatest pianist, not by changing who he was, but by believing in the music within, and that was his legacy.